Welcome again, everybody. You know, Today's video, I'm gonna be talking about dispelling fear that some of you may have acquired from dealing with narcissists and going through a lot of the stuff that pertains to them. Stop letting the narcissist intimidate you. It's mainly what we're gonna be talking about. A lot of people, after the narcissist is gone and they're not even around, they're still having these feelings of anxiety. They're still having feelings like they have to report in and check in, or because you have to think about it. You operated and lived so long. A lot of you, or for a period of time, you kind of molded yourself to conforming to the narcissist. A lot of you did it to keep the peace or to try to please them, because the narcissist always makes everything that you do seem to be not enough. This is from the insatiable nature of the narcissist, though, right? So over a period of time, you begin to program yourself and you get into a routine, a pattern of trying to do things in ways to which it will make the narcissist feel more comfortable so that you won't have conflict with these individuals, because they're constantly complaining about something, or they have something negative to say. And this is why I always tell all of you, steer away from complainers or people who always have something negative to say. All right, this is, a lot of them, they may not be narcissists, but it's a very toxic disposition to be operating from, having a negative person constantly in your presence, or a complaining person constantly in your presence, someone who always has something to complain about or something to gripe about. These are individuals you should avoid like the plague. You should really not try to do your best to be away from them at all costs. But anyway, the biggest thing is to reverse that pattern. Reverse the pattern of having them, of trying to tiptoe around things, right? You got to understand, this is part of like programming and reconditioning yourself. So you recondition yourself to have to, talk in a certain way, say things in a certain way. You suppress so much of who you naturally are until you turn into this meek hermit type of person, right? That's not the way you should be operating. It's not the way you should be. And because after the narcissist is gone, you'll find it very difficult to get back to the point of where you were before that. And staying in that state will make you even more susceptible to another type of individual who is like that. Because you've been groomed to be that type of individual. And then unless you snap out of it, get rid of that fear, get rid of that conforming to keeping the peace, to avoiding conflict, you have to get rid of that. Because moving forward with that, it will cause issues in your upcoming relationships, whether they be work-related, business, or intimate partners. Right? And this also, carries over, because the narcissist, especially those of you who fell really deep in for these individuals and spent a considerable amount of time with them, you'll find it very difficult. And in a lot of ways, you still will be operating as though they're still around or involved in your life. This is, again, you develop a meekness about you, being very timid, because you've been molded to be that way through repetition of trying to please and satisfy the narcissist. Not a good position to be in, because it will cause a lot of other things in you. It'll cause self-doubt, which is bad within itself, because you'll start doubting yourself. You'll start not making the right decisions as you're supposed to be making. You won't trust your judgment. You'll always want to look for someone else's opinion, or you'll overanalyze things severely, which leads to stagnation, and a lot of times you won't even make a decision at all. All right? Because you were used to the overly opinionated narcissist constantly chiming in and putting their 2 cents in, or putting their criticism in to something. So you had to overthink and be very critical of yourself so that you didn't make a mistake, so that you didn't cause that conflict from the narcissist once or if anything were to go wrong with whatever decision you made. Extremely high tense way of being and living. Right? This is what causes that post-traumatic stress disorder. So used to living in high tense, stressful situations with these individuals. Now it has you it has you acting cowardly almost. Now you're just living to avoid conflict. You had so much conflict within this relationship, within this, now I won't even call them relationships, we call them transactions with narcissists. You had so much conflict within a transaction of dealing with them, that now all you want is peace. So now you do everything possible to avoid any type of conflict wherever. That's one side of it. Or some of you hit that breaking point, and you kind of like snap internally. And now least little thing is sending you off the Richter. Now you're hyper vigilant. Now you're hypersensitive now after this. When prior you weren't that way. But being in a toxic situation with someone for too long will produce these types of effects within a person. So how do you do this? How do you take back that? How do you, not allow the narcissist to still intimidate you? Because a lot of you will still, it'll seem like in a sense, will still jump to the tone of a narcissist. If they call or if they come back in, you may not just go back, but it does still affect you. Well, you have to start taking on bold endeavors. And those endeavors have to begin with self. Doing things to help self. Putting love, energy, development into yourself first. Making yourself a priority. Making yourself the focal point of your progression and where you want to be in the future. And it's hard because a lot of times, like I said, you question yourself so much. Look, take the doubt out. Stop doubting yourself. Go for what you really passionately feel about. Whatever your passions are driven towards, go for that. If it fails, it fails. If it doesn't mean it's the end of the road, sometimes you just need to tweak some things. Sometimes you just need to change up 1 or 2 things and make it a little different. Most importantly, the biggest thing I can say, going forward, especially into this year and beyond, worry about self. You can't always help and assist others. Don't overestimate your strength either by thinking you can, ration yourself out time-wise, energy-wise to all these other people who need when you need yourself. So one of the biggest signs when you see people wrapped up into everybody else's business, they're usually neglecting themselves. So make sure you're not neglecting yourself moving forward in this year and beyond. Make sure you're being bold. Make sure you start to, the voice in the head of hearing the narcissist or whatnot, understand that they're not around anymore. And you have the power to shut out anything else from them if you choose to. A lot of you have, co-parenting situations with them or whatnot. Understand that they can't control your life still. You show a person that you are afraid of them and they will keep you that way. You have to, sometimes in certain situations, you have to fight fire with fire. You have to push back. You have to say that or show that you're not going to be a walk in the park. You have to show that this ain't going to be a taking candy from a baby type of situation. I know I'm up here right now looking like, Mr. Rogers and, got that Mr. Rogers vibe going on right now, but I'm really serious. It's not going to be a beautiful day in the neighborhood if a narc try to come back at me on anything. I never tolerated that in the beginning at any point, but I know a lot of you, I deal with a lot of clients who constantly stresses about still being locked in as a target to a narcissist that they've been away from. Don't let them intimidate you. A lot of that's just selling wolf tickets anyway. Stand in your own courage and create your own resolve. But that entails you being brave, being bold enough to stand up for yourself, to fight for yourself. Because everybody can't fight your battles. You got to be able to fight some of your own battles. All right? Again, Happy New Year, everyone. One announcement. Okay, I got to get this in. Meant to mention it earlier. The Departure of Empathy 2. We finished that, my documentary on the follow-up on the first Departure of Empathy. Part 2 is out. You definitely want to go get that. Make sure you go get it, show your support through that. Put a lot of time and effort into these things to give people different angles. We have dramatizations, scenes that play out within the documentary that shows like real life events. A lot of these scenes that I put in there was stuff that actually happened to people. So it is available now. I'll leave a link in the description box. A link will probably pop up here too. Click the link, you can go get your copy. It's all digital, so it downloads digital. You can download it from your device or whatnot. But make sure you go show your support and get your copy of that. And make sure you're really tuning into your self-development moving towards in this year. Get a positive repetition of good things going for yourself. Till next time, everybody, love yourselves. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.